All right, shalawam. First off, I want to say all praises to Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Kwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of GMS, to the elect doing the work in sincerity and in truth. Shalawam. This is Nazar Khud here, GMS Precepts. Um, it's going to be a quick video. I was in Judges. I was reading this. I don't have a title yet. I'm gonna just go in the spirit. I was reading over Judges, and I thought of a precept in Isaiah 42, but let me just read this in Judges the second chapter, and this really shows you uh, about Israel, or the characteristics of Israel, and how our enemies know us, right? Because the key is our enemies, in order they know, can't think of the scripture in Apocrypha, but they know, in order to control us, they have to separate us from our power. They have to separate us from Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi. And once you do that, that's how our enemies can take over us, or have control over us, right? And the longer we are separated from the Most High, the farther away we go from Him, and the easier it is to take us over. But according to prophecy, now I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, according to prophecy, I believe Paul said it. He said what? He said there shall be a falling away first. Okay? I believe it's in Thessalonians. He said there shall be a falling away first. That falling away first is us leaving our heritage. Let me get this, because, let me get Jeremiah 17 first real quick. Jeremiah 17:4. It says, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever." Okay? Now it's saying that the Most High, according to prophecy, we're going to discontinue from our heritage. We're going to discontinue from knowing who we are. We're going to start following other gods and other form of philosophy. Okay? But in doing so, what's going to happen, the result of that happening, is we're going to be under subjection under our enemies, which is all part of prophecy. Okay? It's all for a lesson. It's all for a reason. That's why Paul said there shall be a falling away first. What's the falling away? Like I said, like I mentioned, us discontinuing from our heritage. And we think that we're whatever. Like nowadays, you fast forward today, most people, or Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, think that they're African. They think they're Latino. They think they're Native American. They believe in multiple gods. So as a whole, we become weak because we didn't follow the Most High's instruction, right? But there's an awakening. A lot of Jake out there are starting to come back to their heritage, come back to their nationality, which is all part of prophecy, right? So going back to, you know what? Let me read Isaiah now, since I brought that out. This is Isaiah 42 and 24. It said Isaiah 42 and 24. Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, He against whom we have sinned, right? So it was us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, Israel as a whole. We sinned against the Most High. This is why He gave us up for a spoil. He gave us up to the robbers, to be conquered, to be under subjection under our enemies. Okay, but it tells you in Lamentation. Let me get that real quick. The 4th chapter, Lamentation 4. This is our last punishment, man. All right, after this captivity, that's it. And what proves this is our last captivity, tells you in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, prior to Israel rising and becoming that top nation, the nation that's going to rule before us is Edom, and that's who's ruling right now. right? So this is Lamentations 4 and 20. Well, I'll start at 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also, and we know Edom is speaking about so-called white people, right? The daughter of Edom that dwelleth in the land of Uz, the cup also shall pass through unto thee. What's that cup? That cup is all the curses, basically all the curses that was applied to Israel, it's going to apply to Edom. And not only Edom, but it's going to apply to all the nations. But in particular, Edom or Esau, they're going to be drunken, it says. It says, thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked, right? So you are going to get the brunt of the curses, all right? The brunt of the curses is going to be applied to you. Now, it says in verse 22, it continues on, it says, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion, right? Now we know iniquity goes back to, is basically, it means sin, and it's a transgression of the law. Okay, that's what iniquity means. It's a transgression of the law, which the law was only given to the nation of Israel. Right? It says, so it says, the punishment of thy iniquity or thy sin of us transgressing the law and us following other gods is what? Accomplished. O daughter of Zion, which is another name for Israel, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, he will discover thy sins. Okay, so he's going to discover the sins of Edom. Right now, it's saying he will visit thine, he will discover thy sins and visit thine iniquity, meaning Edom, because they wanted to proclaim or oppose as Israel or a holy people. Well, guess what? Those laws that are for Israel, they're gonna apply to you now. Okay, and you're gonna be judged. That's why I said in the verse above, it says, uh, um, it basically says to live it up. Okay, live it up, right? It says rejoice and be glad, right? So let me go back to Isaiah 42. It says, I read this again. It says, who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. So it's explaining the reason why Jacob, Israel, or Jacob or Israel, which is synonymous with Israel. It's explaining why we were given up to this, why we were given for spoil, why we were given to the robbers, because we didn't abide by we weren't obedient onto his laws, which was told to us. If you go to Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, in the 15th verse, it explains if you don't abide by these laws that I give you, which was told through Moses, right? Moses was a mouthpiece of the Lord. He said, if you don't abide or are not obedient unto the law that the Most High gives you, this is what He's going to do to you. And He's going to what? Give us up for a spoil. And I'm going to give you a quick example of that in Judges, right? This is after Joshua died. The points in 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to go to 6. Well, I'm going to read 6. It says, this is Judges 2 and 6. And when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel went every man unto his own inheritance to possess the land. Verse 7, it says, and the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. Right? So they saw all the great works of the Lord when, the Most High was working with Joshua. It says, and Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath-Heres in Mount Ephraim on the north side of the hill of Gaash. Now I'm reading. Watch this, right? It says, verse 10, and also And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Balaam. And they forsook the Lord power and of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods of the gods of the people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger. So what did the Most High do? He allowed, well, matter of fact, it goes on. And they forsook the Lord, and served Baal and Ashtaroth. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of spoilers that spoiled them, and he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. So then what did the Most High do? Once Israel served other gods, he allowed the enemies to take them over. So this is the example back then, and it's an example right now. Look, as a whole, as a nation, what did we do? We didn't follow the Most High and his statutes and commandments. And what happened? He allowed the other nations to take us over and subdue us. All right, so it's no different. It's no different now. But the only difference is this is our last captivity. Okay, and we could see with prophecy that we can see with prophecy, well, according to prophecy, that the prophecies are coming to pass. We see who's ruling right now is the Edomites, and we can see that our how to say it, it's accomplished. It says the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. Right. So we can see that our punishment, okay, is almost up, because right now we're the Most High is basically punishing the nation of Israel. All right, but he's waking us up now, and he's getting ready to deliver us, man. So that's pretty much it. Lord willing, y'all brothers and sisters are edified. Until the next show, shalawam.